Imagine Peter Pan, but he's all grown up. No, that'd be stupid. Oh wait, they already did it, and it was called Hook, and it's the movie we're talking about today. This is In Defense of Bad Movies. Hey everybody, Sam here with In Defense of Bad Movies. I'm joined, as always, by Bobby.
Hello.
And Loren.
Hi.
You know what? We don't just talk enough. Yeah, man, everyone knows the movies we like that are quote unquote bad and things, but they don't really know enough about us.
It's because we don't like each other?
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
And I cherish my anonymity and privacy.
Let's go around the room and share one thing about...
Lauren's wearing a shirt right now that has her social security number printed on the front, by the way.
Guys, don't tell them what it is.
605-08-4328.
That's someone's social security.
It's probably someone's social security number.
You're supposed to start it with 555.
Yeah. We're going to go out and dial that social security number now.
So, I'm going to share something about myself.
Aww.
This is so awkward. I don't want to know you this well.
I like Christmas.
Controversial
opinion.
Right.
Yeah. How about the rest of you guys? I don't know why I'm doing this, but...
You're asking if we like Christmas, and then we call Ronnie and see what he feels about Christmas?
Lauren, that's spoiler alert. For we're not even going to do that on the regular episode. It's going to be on the mini-sode. We talked about... We're going to talk about the movie Hook today, the Steven Spielberg classic.
Why is there a question mark at the end of that? Just classic. Full stop.
That's what the podcast is. Loren, you obviously, from what you're saying, you are the one who is going to be defending this movie.
Yes, I'm defending Hook. It's no surprise, being that I love Peter Pan, and this movie was my jam in the early 90s. There was the summer where I would watch it every day, and I loved it so much. So yes,
that's a lot of
I'm coming back to remind everyone how good Hook was.
So you would watch it every day? That's literally 2/3 of your day. Watching this movie, because it is a long movie.
Yeah, I didn't do much that summer. Got very pale. Just went around saying, bangarang, bangarang. People hated me.
Rufio.
I still don't know what the fuck bangarang means.
Oh, would you like to know what bangarang means,
I would.
Bobby? It is Jamaican slang that means hubbub or disorder.
Okay.
There's a spoiler alert to IMDb trivia later.
It means what?
Uproar, hubbub, disorder, misrule.
That sounds made up.
Well, it's slang. It's all made up.
And it's IDOBM trivia, so who knows if it's actually true.
Oh, yeah. I only check one source.
Yeah,
that's the rule.
I picture another Sam and Lauren and Bobby somewhere else in the country who are having an argument about Hook, and then the Lauren of that group is just I'll show them, and is furiously typing trivia into IMDb. Bangarang means something. I'll show them. It does mean something.
By the way,
they're racist if they disapprove.
By the way, guys, if you're the Lauren in your group, let us know, because we're curious about who is the which person in each group.
Oh, I hope I'm not the witch person.
Speaking of witch people, actually, I don't have a segue.
Damn it! I really wanted to see where that was going to go. It was such an intriguing
Maggie Smith is in this movie, and she was a witch in a very popular series of movies, Harry Potter.
That's right.
She was. Yeah, that's true.
I had the moment of what? Because silliness.
I would have liked to have seen more Maggie Smith in this movie.
You know what's fucking amazing?
She should have gone to Neverland too.
Maggie Smith is 2 years older than Dustin Hoffman.
I thought you were going to say Robin Williams in this movie. No.
No, she is...
She was 56 when they filmed this, and this was the first thing I've ever seen her in. So Maggie Smith was always ancient and always brilliant.
56?
She's 56.
They do not age well in England unless you're Helen Mirren.
Does she have does she have old lady prosthetics on?
Oh, of course. She's got tons of makeup. She's aged the heck up. Take all that off. She's still a zazzy lady. Oh, heck yeah. You'd do Maggie Smith now, let alone in 91.
Sure.
Yeah, you would.
Dowager.
She is 3 years older in this movie than Marissa Tomei is now.
Oh wow.
Okay, that's weird. Wait, really? Marissa Tomei is that old?
I like that you just know Marissa Tomei's age off the top of your
I
head.
googled it right now.
Oh, okay.
Damn, her Aunt May's
Right?
smoking hot then.
Yeah, because Maggie Smith looks like how you would expect an Aunt May to look.
How Sam Raimi maintained she looks.
Yeah.
I think Marissa Tomei, like, when she hits 70, will somehow, like, she'll be even hotter as a 70-year-old than she is as a 53-year-old.
Her waistband will be even higher than it was in Spider-Man, but she'll still, like, be perfect.
She brings it. Oh, she should get an Oscar for being hot.
Didn't she already?
Just
kidding.
We should propose that one. The Academy this year, in light of social events this year, is introducing an Academy Award for hotness.
That's going to be the backlash to, all this political correctness gone mad.
It's all,
how we're gonna battle.
only white women are going to get nominated for it.
I think 75% of Roy Moore voters actually would like that.
Roy Moore voters can go to hell.
We should really...
They can jump right up into the mouth of a giant alligator.
they're... I mean, Trump supporters are bad, but Roy Moore supporters are
They're part
at
and
least
parcel,
as
dude.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. The Venn diagram is a big overlap.
That's
Yeah.
why we need this movie now more than ever. We're living in a nation of hooks and pirates.
I don't know.
Is that what this movie was trying to say?
Yes.
I actually did think that this movie could have
Done
I mean, it was from the 90s, but they came close to doing something that now would have been about toxic masculinity, but then they backed away from it. And I'm getting way ahead of myself. We'll get to it later.
Yeah.
But
That's rough because also Peter is kind of toxic masculinity as well.
okay. Yeah, we'll get to it. But also, we shouldn't really get to the movie just yet. We should spend a very long time getting to it, just like the movie did.
It built a world.
Sam's going to get kidnapped about an hour into this podcast.
It took just as long in Jurassic Park to get to the dinosaurs. It took just as long in Aliens to get to the xenomorphs. You build your world.
I'd like to see the charts on this, but...
You're just saying it's weird that Hook doesn't appear for the first 40 minutes of the movie?
I want to say Jurassic Park starts with, like, someone almost getting eaten by a dinosaur. Hook starts with, like,
A children's
it's
play.
the world's worst shitty dad movie.
He's only shitty to one of his children, too.
He's shitty to Maggie as well. He's just extra shitty to Jack.
He goes to a performance.
Maybe that was an evening thing. Jack's
answers
game
his
was a
cell
day
phone, though.
game. Yeah, he's still bad.
That is true, yeah. But when...
I would argue answering your cell phone in the middle of a play is way shittier than
You're
not
just a
showing
bad
up
dad.
That's true.
You're a
But
rude audience
when-
goer, and there's a
that
special
is
help for
true.
you.
Yeah. When he wasn't at the kids' baseball game, too, they showed what he was doing. He could have cut out of that place a lot earlier. They start
But he had
playing...
to do, like, the phone.
There's a joke that has aged poorly in any movie. I want to see it because all the shit with cell phones in this movie
So big.
is
Well, let me
incredible.
Hold on, let me flip down the talkie part, then let me pull out the antenna.
We're so cool with our brick phones.
But he has that long goodbye with all his workmates. I'm like, your kid's playing this game. He does not give a shit.
That scene presumably is to establish that he's a very important businessman who's afraid of flying.
Terribly afraid of flying.
Yeah.
Which, boy, they established that over and over and over again.
Oh, I get it, because he can fly.
Do you even need to build to it before, like, just having Peter whisper it to Hook? I don't even know that you do.
Or even just to have you show him upset on the plane.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need all the office shenanigans.
Well, the Office, but also showing, like, big, important businessman he is. And also, he is dicking around with these people. He wasn't like, all right, I gotta run out here and get to this game. Like, he was getting distracted by that world and its trappings.
Peter Banning is a patchwork of, like, every shitty dad cliche ever.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what...
Like, he misses the game. He talks through the performance. He's,
Yeah.
like, way too involved with his work. As soon as he gets to England, he's, like, on his cell phone. He yells at his kids to get that, he yells at his wife to get them the hell away from me.
Yeah. And I thought that was too... I think if you're going to do it, you do it where if he's spending too much time at work, you do that. And you don't also make him an asshole to them. You could...
But that's the problem. That's how far gone he is right now. And let's imagine that we're seeing him at the worst point in his life right now.
But it really makes him unlikable.
Well, yeah.
And I know it's Robin Williams. There's a certain level of, like... Okay, he's unlikable, but he's still Robin Williams, and he's gonna get the audience back. But it felt like overkill. Were you gonna say something?
No, I'm listening with admiration.
I think that we need all that so the movie could take the opportunity to win this back. Like, yeah, we know he's going to be Peter Pan, but he's so terrible. So, like, have him win back to being the good guy. Like, that was sort of the journey. He was the villain at the beginning of it. And we had to find him again. He grew up. He became the pirate. He became, what he never wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's why we had to save him.
Okay.
It's just like Mary Poppins. We had to save Dad.
Wow, you're putting this on a par with Mary Poppins.
No, Mary Poppins is a perfect movie. I'm sorry.
Loren has
I was more thinking
Loren
about
has
saving Mr. Banks.
Loren has evoked Mary Poppins, Jurassic Park, and Alien in her defensive hook. I just want to let Loren go. I just want to wind her up and just let her do whatever.
I'm just saying that Casablanca has a lot.
I mean, the Citizen Kane connections
This is
are
the
clear.
Citizen Kane of contemporary Peter Pan adaptation movies.
His rosebud is the teddy bear.
Ooh, that's a really good illusion. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's peppered in there, these homages.
No, Spielberg said that in the commentary.
Oh, damn it, we didn't do the commentary.
I poached this off of Laura's Family Star subscription, so...
I actually did when we got to the end of the DVD. You were in the other room, and I was looking at like the extra features, and there were not just like the menu screen. I'm like, there are extra features. Nah, I'm just, I'm good. There was some, I don't know. Does
Loren want to like talk about what? I guess you already did. Do you want to talk about like what
my
this
history with it, but yes, Bobby, I do.
Okay.
The gist of why I defend this movie. Besides nostalgia, like it's not just there's a lot of nostalgia, not just for the movie itself, but for a genuine love of Peter Pan. But this movie is excellent at interpreting, understands the books so well, and at interpreting what the logical next step is. It does take, a leap to accept that this is the reality, but like it makes so many homages to the book, and it understands the characters really well. And so I think that as a starting off point is such a magical thing to see, and I like that aspect of it very much. I will absolutely admit the flaws and the things that are cheesy and look like bloated studio notes or just bad choices all around. But inherent to that is just this great understanding of the world and what happened in Neverland after Peter left. It became Pottersville. Like, he was the driving force. And so to see, like, Neverland of our childhoods just destroyed and he has to come back and save it is so powerful to see. And to have him take that journey and, like, it's not just Peter Pan, but all of us as we grow up, how we lose who we were. And it's the journey that we all have to take back.
I have 2 points on that. One, I don't think Neverland is destroyed without him. I think Neverland is exactly the same as it was before.
No, that's the whole point of it. Because when he was, in power, when we first met him, the pirates were just on their ship, sad and pathetic, and like didn't have anything to do. But now the pirates have spread out to like a huge city. They've got prostitutes. They've got like.
But is it a huge city or is it like a dock with a series
of
boats?
A port town.
Yeah.
But it's much more, or a set on a green screen.
I don't know.
But it's much more than it was before. Everything was in balance.
Positing that they're no longer confined to the Jolly Roger, like that they have expanded, or is the movie positing it that this is how it was the whole time?
No, I think the movie is absolutely positing that without Peter Pan, the pirates have been able to run mad, and there's no one that can.
I did not get that from the movie, and you have a much better knowledge of the source material than I do, so you might have
really weird knowledge of the source material.
My second point was like what struck me this time is Hook feels like it was written by people with a profound misunderstanding of the source material. Yeah, because Peter Pan is at its core, I think, a book or a play about Wendy. Wendy's the one who goes through the arc. Wendy's the one who has to part with her childhood. Mm-hmm. That's the point of Peter Pan. Like she, it's a Peter Pan symbolizes her childhood, and Captain Hook symbolizes adulthood and growing older and.
Time literally chasing him.
Yeah. And at the end, she chooses, she takes a lot from Neverland, but she chooses to go back. Mm-hmm. And Peter never evolves from anything more than a symbol. Like I would say that the postscripts that were added to Peter Pan are completely metaphorical, with Peter coming back for her daughter, or in Hook, it's her granddaughter.
You think in those stories it doesn't literally happen?
No, which is why I think it's so fucking bananas that it happens literally in this. It comes off as like really creepy.
That's very weird. I've never thought to question the presentation of, in the book itself, Peter coming back and taking Jane away to Neverland.
Because I think it's like Jane is now at the point where she's going through the same thing as Wendy was going through, and Wendy is observing the next generation going through it, and she feels, you know, like a lot of like longing and despair for this thing that she once had, but you know, like it's not her place to have that experience anymore because she's older. Mm-hmm. Like Peter is never or should never be the main character of a Peter Pan story. Mm-hmm. And like the idea of making Peter the main character of a Peter Pan story this way is maybe interesting, but like it just went for the most obvious surface level arc they could go for him. It's like he leaves Neverland. It's like a reverse Peter Pan where it's like he leaves Neverland, becomes, you know, a gross adult, and Maggie Smith calls out very early on what's very obvious. It's like, you're a pirate. Yeah, because the pirates are the gross adults. And he has to... Then I'm not sure what he has to learn. He has to learn to be a kid again, but also it's a shitty dad movie, so like he has to learn to love his family again.
But
and
you could
like,
also...
no, I was gonna say those two lessons feel very separate from each other.
But you
I
could
don't know.
also posit that it's Peter's opportunity to be saved by Neverland, because essentially, if we can imagine what the book posits, is that Peter builds Neverland, like it's sort of this magical dream place, and he's like the first person to go there and build it, and so that's why he populates it with things popular to stories like Indians and pirates, and it's his world.
I was going to say, thank God that Hook left the Indian shit out, because I'm like, as soon as they mentioned Tiger Lily, I'm like, oh shit, was Tiger Lily in this movie? But,
please just have the sense not to touch on that.
Yeah.
But so, and I think you're right that everyone that comes to Neverland is changed by it, but Peter's whole point is that he is static, even as he does sort of evolve. It's so very slowly. And so this was sort of his opportunity to experience Neverland, like as...
But it's weird
everyone
too that like
did.
he goes to Neverland and sees the mirror of himself, which is Rufio. Rufio's the new Peter Pan, and he just kind of like shittily usurps Rufio. Like
Rufio's a dick
until Rufio submits.
Rufio was he's Peter. Yeah, P was a dick, but so was Peter Pan.
Right. I mean, the only
He was
thing that's
much
different
younger.
is we don't
He's a
see
dick like 10
we don't
years
see
old.
Rufio going to London and like kidnapping kids, and that's like the one difference. But Rufio's like
So Rufio's better.
he can't fly. No, he just can't fly.
Rufio,
if he
by
could
the way,
fly,
fucked me up as a child, but we'll get to that later.
I'm
Like
so
that
curious.
was, I think that was my first like
Wait.
traumatic film moment when I was a
him
kid.
dying.
Yeah.
Rufio can't fly. In the original one, do the Lost Boys fly?
Not really.
Why is Peter Pan keeping this power to himself? All it takes is
Well, this movie.
faith
the
and
fair-
trust and some dust.
But the fairies love him so much. Like, they could give
No,
the other
the
kids
Lost Boys-
pixie dust.
the other-
They can
yeah,
if they
'cause
have the
Toodles
pixie
can fly.
dust. Yeah, but he had to get the pixie dust. So, like,
Yeah.
pixie dust will affect them in the same way, but, you know, they're not walking around with their own Tinkerbell best friends to help them along with it. And Peter Pan's just so a part of Neverland that he can do it without that.
So everything in Neverland wants to fuck Peter Pan, right?
Oh,
like
for
the
sure.
mermaid,
Including Hook.
It's his
Tinkerbell.
island. Yeah, it's a little bit.
the Lost
too.
Boys are all like massaging his face. It's just like there are so many awkward physical moments with Peter Pan in this movie. I never realized how bizarre the mermaid thing was when I was a kid, and like
weird.
how profoundly uncomfortable it made me this time. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
That, in retrospect, kind of feels like hey, we have this technology, let's use it. Or like we have this ability to create this colorful...
Look, we
scene.
can't use the Native Americans. We need to have something else on this island.
I
Let's bring
guess.
in the mermaids.
That was weird.
And they
But
will
they-
breathe oxygen into his mouth somehow.
But they all like joyfully take turns doing it, and he's kind of
Yeah.
just like, "What's happening? I'm gonna let it happen."
The
Also-
mermaids have all been super gross for Peter Pan forever. Like, when he was a child, they were so into him.
I feel like Lauren's going to have a ready-made answer. But why did Tinkerbell drop him off in amidst the pirates? And I'm predicting her answer.
Oh, let's hear what you predict. Should I write it down? Or
Yeah,
do you
maybe we
want to hear?
should. That he had to see just how far the pirates had going
Oh,
along
that's
with
a
it.
really good answer.
Oh, okay, wow. Okay.
I'm
was
gonna
gonna say-
admit I didn't have a full answer, and that had never struck me until this viewing of like, why did they start
Right.
here?
It's a
There
whole
could be
island.
certain arguments, maybe even though she's strong, that's a really long way to fly a fat human man, as everyone keeps telling us he's so
he
fat.
is so fat.
I'm gonna give this movie the benefit of the doubt and defend that, because that struck me too. But everyone is clearly surprised, even Tinkerbell, that Peter is not who he was. Like, he's not a great swordsman. He can't fly. So she flew him there under the assumption that he still had his abilities, and she brought him directly to his kids.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
She's just like, you need to go save your kids.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Who's defending?
This movie's super good. Also, one of the first... He's clearly delirious. One of the first things Peter tells Tinkerbell is that she has nice legs. That's pretty cool. It's just like little things like that caught me off guard. I'm like, did Peter just like hit on Tinkerbell? What the fuck is happening?
It was his first woman, like, obviously. And it's if your first woman was Julia Roberts, like, she looks great.
Okay.
She's the greatest little pixie.
I want to get... I'm pedaling backwards again. So, that scene where he sees that his I don't want to say at the beginning, because it's like a third of the way into this 2.5 hour
First
movie.
scene in Neverland?
Yes, where he sees his kids, you know, and Hook says, well, if you go up to the top, you can, and you touch the net. If you fly up and touch their hand, you know, I'll set them free. And so, like, Peter right away, I mean, there's goofy shit where he tries to, like, write a check and everything, which, it's so funny. But then he, like, as soon as that is clearly not an option, he cannot fly. He physically cannot fly. He tries to climb the mast, like he climbs up the thingy on the ship. Is it the mast?
It's a mast.
Okay.
Is it a mast? Okay.
Yeah, he climbs out on the yard.
Yeah, he crawls out.
Loren comes from sailing folk, so
reaches out to his kids, and he's like doing everything he physically can. He is trying the hardest by far that we've seen him to be a good parent at all in this movie, and like. It's at that moment Maggie's like, "Mommy could do it," and like this is his moment of like abject failure as a parent. Like he's not able to save his children, and that is not a clean metaphor for what is happening in the real world because he's fucking trying his hardest at that moment. It's a weird moment, you know, structurally to have that be the moment where you know, like, oh my gosh, Peter's inadequate as a parent and he needs to work harder when like. It's a moment of him trying really hard, putting his life in danger, trying to save his kids.
But it's such a moment of defeat because that is all it requires. Like, if he can just do this one thing. And there are things he could have done. He could have leapt up to grab the rope. Like, a little bit more and he could have done it. But, like, his own fear is preventing him from doing the thing that is essential.
Is it his own fear, though? Because he's, like, up there, battling his heights. And he's like reaching, and they're just like completely out of reach. If he jumped,
it would have been better if he just couldn't. Like if he even got to the top of. Okay,
but I mean, and what else can he do? But he's done everything he can do in this moment. Like that is, he tried to check. He tried to threaten them with suit, and like.
I think that's what Bobby's saying, though, is that maybe he shouldn't have been trying everything just because.
Well, then we're really gonna hate him.
Or no, like no, not that he shouldn't be trying, but like maybe he doesn't climb up the mast because of his fear of heights. It would show that, like, yeah, on paper he's trying everything he can, but he's not facing his fear, and he's not doing everything he can. I don't know, maybe I'm taking away your point, or maybe that's not the point you're making.
I think he's doing everything he can. Like, I don't
think so inadequate.
So he's already had his arc. He went from being a shitty parent to being everything he could to save his parents' life.
But it's still not enough.
His children's life.
But it's not enough. The thing he has to do is...
What more can you do?
Well,
become Peter Pan.
His arc after that is realizing that the thing that makes him happy in life is his children. I don't know if you couldn't see that coming from 2.5 hours away. But that's the completion of his shitty dad arc is like... I need to think of happy things, you know, to help me fly. And he's just like naming a bunch of superficial shit. And you're like sitting there like, I wonder when he's going to remember he has a family.
We've been spending several weeks with a small child. And I can see just as easily how someone would forget how much they love their family.
There's a love-hate relationship there. I got to say, like, it's one thing to be, I'm backtracking here, but it's one thing to be a bad dad. But letting his kid... throw the baseball hit the ceiling of the airplane. That's just a bad person.
This is a true thing. about that scene that I didn't realize until I was watching that scene. I watched Hook before I had ever been on an airplane.
Really?
And that scene informed how I thought airplanes worked until I actually went on an airplane for the first time in, I think, like, the 5th grade. But,
like, I gotta take my baseball.
But I'm like...
I gotta get in a row
one
of
family
3
gets,
seats.
like, four rows. It's great. You could just walk around and, like, sit next to people and... You know, you gotta. I still look up and I'm like, you gotta be careful. If you hit that with the baseball, the masks will come down.
This is like flying in the 70s. Except a lot more smoking.
But I am curious about it. Like, I guess we could just logically presume, like, okay, maybe it wasn't a full flight, so they just decided to spread out from the seats they had. But it is such a weird choice. It does make us question, like, damn, you guys are rich in coach, but we have the middle seat for free.
Also, going back to being a bad dad, he had no example of how to be a good parent. So I think it's totally fair that he's a bad dad.
He just had Wendy, who's all like, don't grow up in my house. And whatever his American parents were like.
I get it. My snowball is ready. You don't need to tell me, computer. Anyway.
We don't actually know that he had a poor example for a dad. We know at 13 he was adopted by the Bannings, and we don't know.
No, but he was very little when he was...
But like his adoptive parents. Oh, but you don't think that counts?
No, I mean, not in the formative years.
He doesn't remember anything before that.
No, exactly. But I mean, it's still...
Hook was his example during the formative years.
For all we know, the Bannings could have been like the Kents, and he could have just took the totally wrong lesson from them. Like, you're boring, you Midwestern pieces of shit. I'm gonna like go become the high-powered lawyer, and you'll see. You'll see.
You don't think that they were terrible? You don't think that he was adopted into the modern-day branch of the California Bannings, so they were all like magnates, and like they taught him to be money-wise and just
Is this a real family?
grasping? The Bannings, like the Banning House, they owned Southern California. All right, moving on. No one, Bobby Bannings. You never went to Banning House?
No.
So the Bannings were a family.
Wait, isn't... no.
That's Hulk, right?
This is
Yeah.
He was part of it.
Okay.
They used their
Bruce Banning.
They
used their land money to help fund his research.
They were really into removing things from the curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. They were really into telling people they couldn't do things.
Okay, give me one more.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter's a dick. I mean, he's
which iteration?
He's a fucking asshole through this entire movie. Like every step of the way. Every time he has a development, you're like, oh cool, he's gonna fix himself. Like there's a moment where he finally learns how to fly again. He remembers his happy thoughts. And then, like a piece of shit, he draws a line in the sand and puts Rufio on the other side of it.
Well, giving Rufio the opportunity to come support him.
But, like, you know how you know Rufio supported him? Is because Rufio, without saying anything, gets on his knee and hands him his sword back.
He didn't... he just drew the line. It wasn't... He didn't make Rufio be the last one to cross it.
Why? You know what would have been cool? Is if he awkwardly grabbed his sword and then ran and drew a circle around everyone. Right? That's what a real leader would do. But he doesn't. And then he goes around and fucks... For no reason. I don't know why this 2.5 hour movie needed one more plot point. He fucks around with the Lost Boys for a day. And then forgets about his kids?
Because Neverland makes you forget.
And then so he goes...
That's a big thing to forget in a very small amount of time.
He is Peter Pan. He is the best at Neverland. And he has tapped into what it was to be Peter Pan and what it was to rule this island that is essentially his island. So, of course, he's the best at forgetting. Because that's the only way for him to remain a child.
So, if that's true, like, are we to believe he's, like, that close? Because... right after that, he starts, like, bugging Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell's like, I'm super sad because I've always wanted you, but now I can't. Tinkerbell, who's very emotionally complex for something who can only hold one feeling at a time.
which they acknowledge in the movie, too. Like, they didn't forget that plot point.
Yeah. Tinkerbell also feels very separate from the rest of the movie. It's like, cut to Julia Roberts' reaction shot. Go get him! But, like, so Tinkerbell becomes huge, and, like, they almost fuck. And then Peter is like, oh my god, I have a wife. But, like, was Tinkerbell, like, totally cool with this? So she's just like, yeah, it's neat. We could get together, I guess. Like, she's rooting for his redemption the whole time. And then she's like, yeah, I'm gonna let this happen.
Tinkerbell has always wanted Peter in
And she's
whatever
always
way that
been-
meant.
I would believe it from literally any other iteration of Tinkerbell we have seen. I
is
don't
true.
think I would buy it from the Julia Roberts Tinkerbell and Hook, who's always rooting for Peter to be a better person.
That is a good point.
And she wants, and she doesn't mean that. She just has so much emotion that in that moment, like, she's given up a bit, and like it's sort of, all right, let's present you with the reality of what this means. Then, if you're giving up, I'm giving up, but it's not real.
They could have played that off too by when she grew up. She's like, oh, I have room for more emotions. She could have been flooded by emotions, and like that lust for Peter could have been one of them, and that could have excused this behavior. But yeah, no, she's still pretty calm. She's like, oh, look at that, I have more emotions. How about that?
The movie definitely doesn't go with the book's supposition that Tinkerbell is so small she can only hold one feeling at a time. She seems complex.
But she said that. She said like, oh, I'm big now, so I can hold more emotions.
It's
So
the biggest feeling she's ever had, and like she's finally the right size. No, she says she's finally the right size to have the feeling, and that's the lady boner for Peter that she's always had.
Tinkerbell is maybe like the most emotionally complex character in this film. And so, like, the fact that there's
woman, that makes so much sense.
The fact that there's like one scene of her going like, there's like a there's a throwaway reference to her only being able to hold one emotion doesn't necessarily mean that she holds one emotion, because she does it. Like,
they back on Tinkerbell. The way they nodded to so many things from the original text, I feel like it's weird that they didn't acknowledge that she never spoke. Like. And like he should have said something like, "Oh, Tinkerbell, you."
She always
cool.
spoke.
She
It was
spoke
just
to
in
him.
pixie
Oh, she
language.
did. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, this is my ignorance of the.
She would speak pixie language.
Then why did he understand it?
Because
If
he
he's
speaks
forgotten
pixie.
everything.
Well, it's like sublimated in
Boom
his
goes
brain.
the dynamite.
In this version, they do suggest, it doesn't seem to be like just metaphorical translation. It does seem like she is speaking English. Maybe because he won't understand pixie language.
So she could have spoken to other people all this time.
Oh, yeah. But she doesn't care about other people. She just cares about Peter. Is the argument we'll go with. Okay.
Where do all the Lost Boys come from? Are they all
They are
kidnapped?
boys who... Well, they're children that fell out of their prams and got lost. And Peter finds them and brings them to Neverland.
And they even say they're saved. That is not saving. Saving it would be putting the pram back into the parents' custody.
But essentially, I mean, any child in our world that gets lost for whatever reason, imagine that Peter Pan finds them and takes them away to this magical island where they get to have fun forever.
They're bad people.
That's
If that's what they're doing.
Who, Peter or
No,
the
who
parents
was it? Who
that
was
are
it?
allowing their children to be lost?
No, who was it that the pram just went away? There's lots of hills in England, right?
Kensington Gardens, very hilly.
there's almost something like interesting socioeconomically that's maybe implied by the Lost Boys
There's
that
a lot
doesn't
of-
really get explored.
There's a lot of diversity.
And
in
I'm
the
like,
Lost
do I
Boys.
even want this explored? But like, I'm like, wow, there are no people of color in this film at all, except for the Lost Boys, who are predominantly people of color.
I think it's a mix. I don't think it's predominant. I think
It's at least half.
You think it's up to half?
There's
and
at
there's
least
some
two-
pirates of color.
There are a few pirates, which there should be more. Though.
There's
There
a
should be Caribbean
lady
ones.
prostitute of color.
That's true.
They're like it's there. It's and
But I think you're right. There's a higher percentage.
There are
of Lost
absolutely. I
Boys.
was counting. There are no black people in London at all.
Well,
That-
it's
that-
London.
that
in
checks out.
1981.
It's London and Mayfair. Of course,
I
there are no black
don't
people.
know that there are any black people in wherever they are in America at the beginning either.
That's like the Midwest. So yeah, they're like Chicago. They're you got to go to the right neighborhood.
But and I remember like it being cool that Rufio was a Filipino kid when I was a kid. It wasn't a thing that happened a lot.
He dies.
Fucking, we
You're
will get to his death in
yeah.
a second. I have so much to say about his death, but yeah, I don't know, man. If Spielberg had started to have the kernel of an idea of something with that regard, or if he's just like, black kids are so cool. What's cool these days?
Those are cool looking Lost Boys. Let me tell you, like those Lost Boys are the coolest ones in the group.
It looks like their life looks like a toy commercial that ran in the early 90s on Nickelodeon. I agree.
So many
But the
skateboards.
white kids have like really crazy hair and freckles, and like the black
Where
boys
the-
are like, damn.
And they
Peter."
will drop everything to get like weirdly and awkwardly sentimental as the camera closes up on them, and they say things like, I believe in you.
Guys, where do the skateboards come from?
I kind of want to look at the history of skateboards and when they were first introduced into
we
culture.
know Marty McFly invented them.
That's right. Okay.
Oh, no, they did not watch Back to the Future because they have been there for 100 years.
Not all the... Well, no.
Pete?
The Lost Boys have been there for at least 30 years. All those Lost Boys. So that means they would have been found in the 60s. So they've not seen Back to the Future, but they would have experienced Marty McFly's skateboards. Wait, that's not real. Okay. Wait, they're not necessarily the same universe. Got it.
What's the what's the name of the kid who gets left in charge? Something but
Thudbutt.
Thudbutt is at least as old as Toodles, right?
I see.
Because he talks about Toodles.
Right.
Rufio was there when Peter left.
You know what I love, and I cannot get enough of, are fat jokes.
There's so many.
They're so nuanced, and
but like even I know it's not intended that way, but after all the fat jokes, Peter leaving Thudbutt in charge becomes a weird kind of fat joke after a slew of fat jokes, where he's like, "You gotta take care of all the kids smaller than you."
Yeah,
it's
fatty.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie doesn't go out of their way to shame Thudbutt for all, like, calling Peter fat. Like, no one ever calls out, like, damn, Thudbutt, you fat. Like, they're certainly just circumstantial, like, I can't help it that I'm knocking the bench down. You're all so small. But it doesn't feel like it ever attacks him for that.
He's the only one that wants to take food from anyone else's plate. It's not, they're not guilting him or anything, or shaming him,
right.
but they're not shaming him within
the
movie.
Silently judges him.
Yeah, but the movie shames him for the audience.
I don't feel that Thudbutt is ever aggressively shamed, and he's obviously sweet. Like, his little speech about, like, these are his happy thoughts, and I remember my mother. Like, he's so cute and sweet. And the only time that is given disservice is when he's able to fold his body in half and become a projectile rock in the final battle.
When he becomes a garbage pail kid.
When he becomes a garbage pail kid. That's when I feel terrible for him.
He has superpowers, though. I mean, Peter can fly, and this kid can turn into a boulder.
I had so much respect for Thudbutt, and then the movie did that to him. Like, no, movie.
Okay, it looked bad.
This seems like
it looks silly bad.
I feel like we're at their natural progression now. So Thudbutt turns himself into like a cannonball. This final battle is like really goofy and fun. They have a gun that has like a chicken attached to it, so they can shoot eggs. They have a thing where they drop like marbles so that the pirates can trip on it. They like throw paint at people, and then Captain Hook takes his fucking sword and stabs Rufio in the fucking chest, and he dies in Peter's arms, saying he wishes he had a dad like him. What the fuck?
Are you saying there are some problems?
What the fuck?
And I absolutely agree with that part, as much as I love it. And I would be curious to hear the progress, because there's a lot of this movie that feels like Steven Spielberg making a concerted effort to make a kid's movie. Whereas, like, you know, E.T. is just a beautiful story. Like, Jurassic Park is an adventure with dinosaurs. Like, this feels like, okay, let's make a kid's, air quotation marks, movie. And he had a studio potentially pressuring him with a lot of that. And the whole final battle is all that. And earlier in the movie, they admit that they spend all their time killing pirates. And pirates spend their time killing them. Yeah. Like, we could have had a battle with actual stakes.
No. Them saying, like, we killed pirates, and the pirates saying we killed them. And then if you have that final battle where Peter bloodlessly kills a bunch of pirates, and it's kind of funny, like, you get the language of the world, which is there's no stakes. These two groups of people are fucking around all day, and they're just having fun because they never grow up. They are literally playing, like, you know, pirates, and there's I don't even know what they're making pretend all day. Like, that's the point of Peter Pan. And, like, I don't want to say immortality isn't central to Peter Pan, because, god damn it, it's like a central theme of Peter Pan, but not in like a crazy man is going to murder you sort of way. It's like you will get old and you will lose all the fun in your life, and then you will die. Like, that is the mortality at stake. And so, like, it's just so weird that the film follows that language. You know, like, you get a lot of pirates randomly shot. You know, you get Glenn Close thrown into a box and with the scorpions, like, and it all feels goofy. And then fucking out of nowhere, Captain Hook, like, impales a child with a sword. And, like, there were two deaths in my childhood as far as, like, popular culture that really destroyed me as a child. It was Gavroche in Les Miserables, and it was Rufio and Peter Pan. And I've always thought, like...
Shenanigans kid.
I know. I always thought, like, Rufio destroyed me because I
Mufasa.
saw myself as Rufio. But, like, watching it this time, I'm like, no, there's no way I saw myself as Rufio. Rufio was, like, the cool older kid. I freaked out because the movie did not, like, hold my hand up to that moment. That movie did not, like, build its way up to that moment. It was just like, do you want to be totally traumatized? Boom. Dustin Hoffman just murdered a kid.
My whole problem with all that is they show the egg gun hitting people and eggs crashing on them, but the egg remains came out of the gun like splint, like shells. That doesn't make any sense.
It's a fun visual.
No, yeah, that really bothered me, the Rufio thing too. Just watching it this time. Yeah.
There's a random...
So funny. I've never questioned the legitimacy of the violence of their world, just because that's the presentation. Like, these are literally pirates, and the way they comport themselves, they spend as much time, killing each other because these are children, and this is
But when you've got a guy with a sword, and then you've got kids with egg
But then
weapons,
that's where my problem is.
Yeah.
Like, Bobby's position that, like, they're just playing all day. They, they don't really go to battle.
It feels like if Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, like, if a boulder fell on Roadrunner and killed him, you'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
This is not the rules of the universe we were playing with at all.
Yeah. And the line that we kill them all day and they kill us all day. No, they're just killing you. Your weapons are not killing any pirates.
It loses the metaphor at that moment, too.
It does,
You're like, I don't know, it's strange.
But there actually is something problematic with that, too, because it is, the Lost Boys who are kids who are refusing to grow up and actual pirates. And if they are really enemies, those Lost Boys are dead. I mean, and that goes back to the source material, which depends... I mean, I guess... I don't know.
Because in the book, the pirates are a real threat. I mean, they are, able to evade them, and
but
they
the Lost
hide
Boys
in their...
fight them...
They're kind of a real threat.
They are... I feel like I've never questioned, like, the real threat that they could be. I think there's a lack of impetus, but in the book they sort of live in fear of the pirates. They live in their secret, like, underground treehouse that they don't want the pirates to have the location of, because the pirates will come and kill them.
And any deaths have happened either in the past or off screen.
Yeah.
Or off,
And so we can't test them
but
out.
So to have it on screen, that's dark.
I think, like, my favorite, and I know you like it too, Loren, but, like, my favorite big screen version of Peter Pan is the 2003 film.
Because it's perfect.
Yeah, by P.J. Hogan. That's amazing.
End.
And sorry, I'm gonna bring it up now because right. there's two moments in that like get Peter Pan completely right, and one of them is Peter and Wendy are goofing off in the forest, and Captain Hook and Tinkerbell find them and are just both emotionally destroyed because Peter doesn't want to play with them anymore. That is Captain Hook's motivation. Is he wants to torture Peter Pan all day, but he doesn't like want to kill him necessarily. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment later on in the film where Hook almost kills Peter Pan, and Peter's response to that is to die would be an awfully big adventure, which is like one of his big lines. And like this, like no one ever is taking the physical stakes very seriously in that film. It's all emotional stakes.
But it feels real because that movie's perfect.
It's a great movie.
Because it's excellent.
It's really, really good.
And they do get... All the characterizations are much better than that, of course.
Yeah.
And they do get the perfect balance of Hook lives in fear of his mortality, mm-hmm. and Peter is, let go from that because it's not real to him, and it doesn't matter.
And to be completely fair, I feel like we've been shitting on this movie a lot. This film gets a lot right about Hook being afraid of his mortality. Mm-hmm. Dustin Hoffman is great. Bob Hoskins is great.
I love them both so much. And those are the things, obviously, like the performances and the moments that are the best parts of the movie for me. Their scenes together are perfect.
Yeah. I was looking up reviews and stuff, in preparation, and mm-hmm. like every review pointed out, I had an apostrophe as like a highlight of the film because Bob Hoskins is great.
He deserves more than
Lightning.
just...
It's just struck my brain. That must hurt.
Speaking of Smee, though, what the fuck with Smee the Sweeper? Like,
I know.
That's weird.
Because that seems important.
Because he maybe found a way to escape Neverland.
But also, Maggie makes a reference to him at the beginning and says there was a creepy man at the window. And he goes, who? There was a creepy man with a shovel.
Because if we can imagine that, how did this all happen? Somehow the pirates have figured out how to get into our world. And so, yeah, if it was Smee
you think he's
coming here...
set up?
Smee somehow knows how to get to our world. So I think it's, entirely possible that it's not just a Wizard of Oz moment. That, like, yeah, that's Smee. Because he knew how to get here in order to get the dossier on Peter Manning.
It's just like, I'm gonna just be here when he wakes up, and I'm gonna make him think he was conked over the head, and I'm just gonna run after that. Fight with the missus? Okay, he's not looking. Run, you know.
Act like a chimney sweep. Quick. Hello there, Governor.
It feels like he's working some sort of long con, aside from just trying to make it in this world.
It might be a weird Wizard of Oz moment that is winky and doesn't know quite what it means in the literal world of the film.
Okay.
But I think the fact that the pirates can come to our world should be more terrifying, and that's a different movie in of itself. Ooh, maybe I'll save that for the final bit.
I gotta come up with mine.
So are Lisa and Nana immortal?
I think they've had a series of mastiffs, all called Nana. Like, it's Nana number 6 right now.
And who?
And Liza is the housemaid. And it's a very common name in England, because she doesn't seem quite old enough to be the Liza from 1910. So
Wendy's like one stipulation.
She needs to be Liza. Maybe it's Liza's granddaughter, also called Liza. Okay.
Speaking while we're on the topic of granddaughters, okay, I have so many questions about Moira.
Okay.
How does Moira not know that Peter is Peter Pan? Does she know that Peter is Peter Pan?
No, I don't think she does. I think that...
Because we have that scene that is, in my opinion, no longer a metaphor, made completely real, in which Wendy stands by as her ex, like, molests her granddaughter in her sleep. But, like, that's how they would meet, right? Like, how...
If Wendy hustled him out of the room in that moment, like, no, like, I don't know why I even let you do the one kiss thing. That was weird of me to allow that to happen. But, no, okay, come here and we'll, like, present you to the family later as this orphan boy I just found. I'm not sure that Moira... Just to make me comfortable with the story, let's pretend that she slept through that.
But then Moira is his reason for leaving Neverland, also.
Yeah, so he doesn't sound like he's going to sit idly by, and he is a lost boy. It doesn't feel like he's going to sit idly by and go like, oh yeah, no, I'll wait till 10 years till we're of age, and then I'll, boner.
He got sent away to America.
Oh, that's true.
But then how did he drag Moira with him?
Maybe she came over, she went to university at Chicago. What's the Chicago years?
Southwestern?
Southwestern?
Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Sorry.
She went to university at Northwestern. They struck up a, as adults relationship. Yeah, this is what happened.
Well,
they bonded over deep dish pizza.
Then why? Oh, if he...
Or he went to school in Oxford.
This is actually opening up a whole new can of worms to me. Because, if he does get shipped off to America, I don't see Peter Pan going... Oh yeah, okay, this is my life now. He's like, fuck that, I'm going back to Neverland.
But he, for Moira, made the choice to become a grown-up.
No.
And he didn't know what that meant, so that's why he becomes this crazy dad, archetype. This is what he always believed adulthood would be, and that's why he becomes that.
I'm sorry.
And the movie is him learning how to be a successful adult.
This is so charitable that people should throw a ball in your name and awkwardly do a standing ovation for you.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Bring out a big old, wing of a building on a trolley that I always thought was a cake as a child and thought, that's a weird looking cake.
Yeah,
but no, it's just
12 years he was or whatever, however long he's been raising himself in Neverland, and all of a sudden he's the very first time they tell him to do a chore or something, he's like, no, fuck you. Fuck you. And maybe you could make the argument that from the US he doesn't know how to give back to Neverland. I think that's as best as you can do.
Maybe our world makes you forget. Maybe that's the curse of our world. Neverland makes you forget your real life, so you stay a child forever. But our world makes you forget your past.
Like Toodles.
And Toodles can't find his marbles. That's just what growing
Toodles
up does.
Can't find his marbles. He can't. It's not like he doesn't remember.
That was a weird... That whole Toodles and the marbles thing.
He lost his marbles.
I don't know.
Why is that weird?
Well, okay, first of all, it's very on the nose to, because obviously losing one's marbles means going crazy.
Wait, what?
And just for him to be obsessing about that, I don't know.
He wanted the pixie dust.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Although I think he would have noticed that it's been missing for the past 70 years. But still wonderful.
I guess if you're getting old, when you're starting to get old and daughtery, you could start to remember maybe the things that you'd forgotten.
Okay. Maybe that's it.
There's like an interesting movie there with Toodles too, where his arc is like a dude, at the very end of his life, wanting desperately to reconnect to like this part of him that's gone. Like I don't know, that's there, but also it's they don't need to cram anything more into this.
I mean that could be your movie you wish you'd seen.
Oh. But jump the gun.
See if I have any other notes of anything that
Jack cries like a sociopath.
What? He also...
Can sociopaths cry?
Jack
cries?
He cannot cry.
What?
That ball...
Jack?
When he hits his home run, that ball... Well, first of all, okay. Going back to Bad Dad Baseball Dad. It feels like it's implied that Jack struck out because... Peter wasn't there.
To believe in him.
He has trouble with the curve.
Definitely.
I mean, they said he has trouble with the curve. The dad's presence
unnecessary.
Because he has such expectations for what life should be. Life should be a good dad. Life should be a straight-on ball. So when he gets a curveball, when he gets a dad that's not supporting him, they're the same thing. I'm sorry.
No, you made a point there, but I think it's crowded because they have the stupid curveball thing. If it was just the presence of a dad, and then Peter's watching, and then his son hits a home run while he has another surrogate dad there who's supporting him, it's like way clear. And you just mentioned that was there, and I hadn't even considered that it was there because it's framed as like, oh, he got so good at baseball, he can hit curveballs now.
No, I was just kidding. The curve is unnecessary.
Yeah, was that a curveball?
Oh, I don't.
At the end.
Sport game?
That ball stayed in the air very, very long time.
They magicked it just to make sure he won.
So they cheated.
They got a pixie little thing. They just did some pixie dust on the ball.
When they do magic, the presence of your dad will make a difference. That'll make a big difference. What else? I think that's most of my
What else?
This movie got nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Song, which is like mind-boggling.
That is
what
weird.
Song?
The song that Maggie sings.
There's a video of her singing it at the Oscars, and I'm just like, oh no, you're putting way too much pressure on this poor little girl.
I don't even remember the song.
So funny.
The one that... What was the song? What was the context of it? You don't have to tell me the exact song.
She was standing outside the boat, hugging a post on a pier, just singing it sadly. It was basically like, her mom sang that song.
It's a good thing girls aren't important, because then we would have had another subplot about whatever.
Oh, thank goodness they're not, right? That's why she gives no fucks about Neverland. Like, no, it's just not the place for girls.
And he doesn't give any fucks about her. It's all about Jack.
I'm a liar. I would love to go to Neverland. Oh my gosh.
I had another thing, waving by the throat, but that was a visual thing that I don't really...
let's do it right now.
They were doing like this around the throat, and I don't know... What the hell was that even, like the finger...
What the hell is bangering, Sam?
Bangering is Jamaican slang for hubba.
We've established that some like Loren in Utah wrote that.
What was the finger thing? And that came back.
It means the taxes.
If it was just one time, it would have been okay, whatever.
It was their gang sign that they threw up.
Interesting. They're gangsters now.
Because that's what they are. They're just a rowdy gang.
All right. Okay. If anyone else... nothing else? Let's go to final judgments. Loren, I can assume you like this movie. Right?
I do like this movie very much. I'm happy to discuss the flaws in it because they're there. There are tone problems. There are cheesy moments. There's the limitation of technology, which is sort of... Considering where this movie falls and that it was a very big budget for the time, how the effects don't stand up, how they look far more 80s than what Jurassic Park would bring us just 2 years later.
Yeah.
Like, the flying just feels really slow. But inside of that, I still find this just such a charming, lovely movie with great performances. Like, just for that. Just for Maggie Smith and Hook and Smee. I think it's very worth it. And the love letter continuation of the Peter Pan story really moves me. So I like it.
How about you, Bobby?
I grew up on this movie. I remember seeing it in theaters at the Orange Cinedome. I remember collecting the McDonald's toy. I seriously, I remember collecting the McDonald's toys, and I've watched this movie literally dozens of times. It's like it's not the worst movie we've done. It has its moments. I think whether fair or not, because I know Loren and I kind of sparred a little bit about this movie, jokingly through text beforehand, and like whether fair or not, there's like a cultural, like a pop cultural stigma I attach to this movie, which is that kids who grew up in the 80s and 90s fucking love the shit they grew up with, and like this is one of those things that we loved as children that isn't good, and it's okay to like it, but it's also important to acknowledge like that it's not good to. It's not good. Like, there are things that are objectively bad about it.
That's funny. That's what I passionately feel about Love Actually. Like, you can like it, but I need you to admit it's bad.
There are things from my childhood that I can revisit and go like, wow, Jurassic Park is like a perfect popcorn movie. The Goonies is shit. It's terrible.
No, Wes!
Beauty and the Beast is one of the most perfectly executed animated movies I've ever seen. And Hook is a bloated fucking mess that has its moments. Like, we've talked about Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins. They're great. But, I don't think this is a good movie. There are parts of it that tickle nostalgia spots for me. But, yeah, that's what I think.
I'm going to kind of echo you, Bobby. I might be a little bit more charitable. I'm sure I saw it as a kid, and I don't really remember it, though. And so this was I don't carry the nostalgia that you did. And maybe it's also hearing, like, on Doug Love's Movies, how he hates Hook. And I feel like there are a lot of people who hate Hook. So I walked away with it going, like, I don't see the hate. I mean, it was flawed for sure. It was suffered from existing in the 90s. And a lot of the effects and jokes reflect that. It was definitely overlong. Having said all that, it was charming, very good performances. So I would have to give it a thumbs up. So... yeah.
Wait, we're doing thumbs up and thumbs down? Is that a thing that we're doing?
No, we're each doing... I do thumbs up, thumbs down.
Sprung that on me, like...
You give it a percentage point.
I do like a whole rubric.
And Loren's is mustard or pants.
Oh, it's so mustard.
I have no idea. So yeah, that's... we ran the spectrum of kind of liking it to liking it a lot. All right, let's do... the movie we wish we'd see.
Ugh, this movie is crap. I could write a better movie in my sleep.
And now, IDOBM presents the movie we'd wish we'd seen.
That's where we take an aspect of the movie, and the movie had lots of subplots already, so it's going to be hard to figure out some new angle. But yeah, take a sequel, prequel. We already know what the prequel would be. The original Peter Pan. Or just some character who should get his or her own movie. I will start, since I think we've a few of us kind of alluded to these things, to our own answers. But I want to see when Peter Pan gives up being a lost boy, decides to live with his family, and that arc of being a little shit. Like, he had to have been a problem child. And that actually could have been an interesting growing up, coming of age type thing of having, I mean, he was 12 or 13, but he had the mindset of a much younger kid, and having to be thrust into I'd keep it in the beginning. I'd keep it in England just for that charm. Be thrust into the English boarding school system, and how that would go. How about you?
Do you think he'd be a popular kid, or do you think like he would be so out of step that he'd be a loser, and that would be a shock for him?
He would be a loser. Yeah, I mean the other kids would be the prim and proper. Yeah, I think in the U.S. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't have to go this way, but you would have your Tom Sawyer-y Huck Finn kid. So yeah, he'd fit right in with them. But and this is obviously going with stereotypes, But yeah, in the UK, you'd have your, I don't know, Draco Malfoy's just hating him, and they'd have to end up bending a little bit, and he'd have to end up growing up a lot.
I want to see the Buffy years of Peter Pan.
The Jesus
Or
years.
like-
The lost Jesus years.
Or like, because he used to be the popular kid in Peter Pan in Neverland, but now he comes here and has no powers, and so why would anyone love him? And
Yeah.
him being the outcast.
Why would the super cute girl be popular at Sunnydale? Anyway.
She's weird.
Bobby, how about you?
Well, I would love to see a romantic comedy about Peter and Moira, right? Like, he's the kid from the wrong side of the second star to the right, and she's the daughter of this older, or the granddaughter of this older woman he used to date. It's like the most fucked up version of The Graduate ever. And I would love to see that play out also, because it would solve so many questions I have from Hook that were just totally not explained.
How about you, Loren?
I want to see the version where the pirates come to our world. The thing that must have happened in order for this whole story to kick off. Like, there's a scene where the raiding party comes in and they, experience the craziness of the 20th century, and that feels like that would be satisfying. And
Hook has telekinetic powers. He unlocks the door with his mind. Like,
I mean, they've got a certain amount of magic to be able to come here in the first place and make the
They would be so...
things, make the bed sheets lift up.
They're so bumbling. That would be interesting to see. It would just be a madcap.
But so then we can understand that part. Like, how did you guys manage to break through the barrier between realities and
oh my God,
abduct these children?
all Tinkerbell.
Oh, shit!
Oh, she's
It was
playing
just an
both
excuse
sides?
to get back.
That makes sense.
That's compelling.
There we go.
That's the
Oh,
story.
that's a movie I wish
Dark.
I'd seen.
This is really interesting.
That's where we get the twist.
That is revealed.
2/3 of the way through.
Cool.
That's fun.
Now, Lauren, I believe you have some IDOBM IMDb trivia, TM.
Just to reiterate, of course, this is the trivia that we pull from IMDb. That is the only source we check, not necessary to look at any others. And we're just going to prove that these...
The people who submit to IMDb don't look at any source. So
are 100% accurate. So what we have here is, first off, our writer was James V. Hart. So he credits the inspiration of the whole story coming from his young son, Jake, who one day asked him, what would happen if Peter Pan grew up? I like the idea that it comes from a child. That's just such a, Daddy,
it's like that one
what
line.
would happen?
Like that one line from the Ragnarok. That came from a child.
Oh, that's the best damn line. That story blows my mind.
I feel like we should say it.
We're friends from work.
Yeah, that line apparently came from a child visiting the set.
That's insane.
That's amazing.
It's the best. He got a line in the trailer. Was that his Make-A-Wish? I don't know. So Kevin Kline was originally set to play Peter Pan, but had to drop out because Soap Dish was having major reshoots and rewrites. So just through conflict. And because of that reason, I spent the whole movie like, what would it be like with Kevin Kline? First off, he and Robin Williams have sort of a similar look in some ways, so it was very easy to project him on there. Like, damn, that Peter Pan would be hot.
What
It's
would
a hot
Soap
Peter
Dish
Pan.
have been like without Kevin Kline?
Can't imagine either. Not as worth watching.
That's funny you
sure.
said for Peter, because my first thought went to Hook, but that was probably because of the Pirates of Penzance. So I'm already seeing him as a pirate.
That's it.
So
He wanted to
he's
break
halfway
up,
there.
what he'd done in the past.
Yeah.
Kevin Kline would have crushed this role.
Oh,
He
he
would have been really good.
Yeah.
He would have been amazing, but a little bit I kind of like he's sharing my predilections. He's too gorgeous. I like that Robin Williams is the short, stocky, had to have his torso and upper arm shaved to be this role. I kind of like that he is unremarkable.
You know what?
Whereas Kevin Kline's just gorgeous.
I'm going to say something maybe controversial. Mm-hmm. Probably not really. But
Soap Dish is better than Hook. I'm saying that because Laura's in the next room and I'm just trying to score points with her.
So Robin Williams obviously passed away. I feel bad saying anything ill of him. His comedy his comedy in his movies have not held up in that well.
I think
this would have been better
changed
with Kevin Kline.
Oh, really?
I
But
think
in the
he would have been better.
90s, we ate that up though. Maybe it would have aged better with Kevin Kline.
Yeah,
but
it would. Yeah, you're
I
right.
don't want to do him the disservice because just I think our tastes have changed. But at the
And
time,
I'm saying this while holding on to an Aladdin notebook. I love Robin Williams stuff, but yeah, a lot of stuff just doesn't feel like it holds up.
I think Robin Williams holds up pretty well, but I'm going to challenge that and say I don't even think this is a Robin Williams comedy role. For the most part, he's not funny. In the moments when he does get to be goofy Robin Williams, when he gets hit by a baseball, it feels weird.
Yeah.
But then it's also not as deep as his deep roles.
Right,
Like, this
yeah.
is no Good Will Hunting or Awakening.
Which is why I also agree that Kevin Kline would have been better. But
Yeah.
He could walk that line more delicately.
It was no, I'm not doing this this slapstick stuff.
Is Kevin Kline British in your mind?
Yeah.
certainly wishes he would.
I'm doing Mr. Fishoder, where he's a little bit more proper.
Perfect.
Anyway, what else have we got?
Okay, we've shared some stuff. So we've commented on how Tinkerbell feels like she was apart from the whole movie, obviously, because she was trapped on a green screen all by herself. And this movie was real rough for her. She was going through life problems at the time. Her, engagement to Kiefer Sutherland had been called off. She was really ill during part of the filming. But she was apparently very difficult to work with and was dubbed Tinker Hell on the film, which is sad. Like,
America's Sweetheart.
yeah, and she was young and going through a rough time.
That's rough.
But it was not a good experience for her, which also always makes me sad in a movie that looks like it's supposed to be fun when it is hard work for the poor people. Like, no, I want you to be enjoying yourself. And also, Sam, because she spends so much time flying, she had an assistant whose sole job was to clean her feet.
Gross.
I thought you might think so.
That's horrible. Just let her wear flip-flops and then take them off when she's flying.
That's the worst part of the movie for you, right there. But you still have to make sure they're clean.
Yeah, but I mean, if they're clean, you just clean them once. She's wearing flip-flops, which are presumably clean, not touching the set floor. You lift her up in the air, she kicks those bad boys off. Clean feet. Then you don't have to subject somebody to this horrible job.
I mean, even if she did wear flip-flops, she'd still need to have that person if there's debris or detritus in the studio.
I hope they got paid a lot.
I'm sorry, but nothing is worse to you than feet, obviously.
Well, I mean, there's some things, but yeah.
So there are several cameos in the movie. We've touched on some. Sam very quickly spotted others when we were watching. It was very impressive. Like, Phil Collins was not on screen for 2 seconds before you're like, it's Phil Collins. Like, what? How did you know?
I watched all of his videos as a kid.
But he's just wearing, like, PC, like, suit and a mustache.
You gotta remember, I'm older than you guys, so I watched all the Phil Collins videos, and you did not.
Fair.
You were busy watching Hook. Or busy being not born yet.
Oh, I agree. And then we all know that it was Glenn Close, who was the male pirate who got stuck in the boo box. But did you know that the kissing couple on the bridge that get hit by fairy dust as Tinka is flying over them are George Lucas and Carrie Fisher?
Huh.
Of course you didn't. They were too far away. That would be a weird thing to know. But it was them.
George Lucas kissing Carrie Fisher.
It's gross, right?
Plus David Crosby.
Plus David Crosby. He was one of the pirates that kept in the scene.
He had a few shots. There were a few shots.
He had a lot.
Yeah,
the first time we saw him, David Crosby.
That
He came back.
Like
he was on set for a few days.
That feels like more than a cameo. That's he did a proper role.
But who you might not have noticed was Jimmy Buffett, who was one of the pirates that tries to steal Peter's shoes at the very beginning.
Did he have a parrot? Because he should have had a parrot. And being a pirate and,
Also parrot heads.
Yeah, exactly.
Those weird parrot heads. And then finally, Steven Spielberg is leading the pirates in the march to Hook's ship with Jack's watch on a pillow.
Huh. Interesting. I'm have to go rewatch the kissing scene.
I don't think you can really tell either. I was kind of like, can we? No, of course not. They're far away. In case you were wondering why there was a song in the movie that got nominated for an Oscar, well, that's because composer John Williams and lyricist Leslie Bricusse, who worked on Willy Wonka, for one, were working on a stage musical about Hook that had been scrapped after 10 songs were written.
Wow.
And they decided to go ahead and plug one of those songs into this movie.
Huh.
Which is weird.
Finking. Thank you, Loren.
There were many references.
Oh,
no,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
just kidding.
I'm sorry. If you have more, go tell more. It sounded like the finale. It had a sound of finality.
Oh, there's so many.
Okay.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. You can cut these. Obviously, there are many allusions in the movie to the book and the different plays and stories. This one I enjoyed. So the line that's spoken by Rufio, where he says, "You're dead, jolly man," like he comes in, swings his sword, and it stops right before Hook's face. And he says, "You're dead, jolly man." He had to say that backwards because they shot the scene, like, starting with the sword here, backwards line, and, like, doing the swoop away move. And you can see the ADR in it.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
if you're watching closely for it, it's very entertaining.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say, he had to actually say, like, and they gave it to him phonetically, and he had to say it like that. So
I hope he did. And then finally, in an interview with the actor that played Thudbutt, Rashawn Hammond, he says that in the last scene where Peter Pan is picking, the lost boy to receive his sword and take over his position, none of the boys knew who were going to get the sword. So it was like a genuine moment of like, who's he going to pick? Who's he going to pick? So the reactions are supposed to be real.
Huh. So they didn't even have the script because if you've seen the script, you know who's
You don't give
the biggest
little
one.
boys all the line. No, all the Lost Boys actually had much longer screen time. Like, they each had really complicated arcs, and they just all had to be cut back to, keep secret who was going to be the most significant.
Lean 2.5 hours.
And then finally, the word bangarang is actually Jamaican slang. It's defined as
you.
hubbub,
Fuck
uproar,
you. Nope.
disorder, or disturbance.
Next segment.
You already said thank you. Finally. Thank you, Loren. As always.
You can cut out of that whatever you want to.
Thank you. I will. So I'm going to cut that segment.
You son of a bitch.
And so let's conclude the movie and just talk about whatever things that need no defense. Just whatever you're into right now. And who wants to go first?
I just saw this movie really needs no defense because it's the highest rated movie in Rotten Tomatoes history now. But I just saw Lady Bird and fucking loved it.
Really?
It's the highest rated movie in
It,
Rotten Tomatoes history?
unseated Toy Story 2. Yeah.
Toy Story 2?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is this on just the critical side, or okay?
It's on the critical side. Yeah.
Oh, it's on the critical side.
Oh yeah. No, but it's really good. I loved it. Greta Gerwig it's her first directorial movie, and she just writes her characters with a ton of heart, and it's very funny and very genuine, and I loved it and wanted to run out of the theater and punch clouds. I was so happy. And
What do the clouds ever do to
great.
you?
Yeah, I've liked Greta Gerwig for a long time. She earlier in her career, she's collaborated with why can't I think of his name? She's Noah Baumbach, but before that, what's his name? Mumblecore dude.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, two directors who are very prolific, but who I haven't been huge fans of, and I can see where working with them has influenced her style, but man, I just love her a lot. She's great.
Huh.
So, Lady Bird.
Cool.
That's so interesting. Because I feel like, okay, I've heard about that movie. I don't know a lot about it. For it to be so beloved.
Yeah, it's great.
Interesting. Damn it, now I have to add another movie to the list.
I will go. I'm going to recommend 2 TV shows. The first one, you guys have probably all heard of it. Mindhunters, is it plural? Yeah. It's a Netflix show about the advent of the FBI's, they're beginning to profile serial killers. And so it's about the 2 guys who have to go to, interview all these serial killers and talk to them. And it's super interesting. It's David Fincher, I believe, produces it and has directed a handful of episodes. I don't think he did all of them, but a few of them. And it's very well shot, very well performed. It's got the guy who played King George.
That's right.
In Hamilton. And he's very good. He's got this earnestness, which is really interesting, and this kind of this earnestness, but also kind of like a dissociation, where I won't get too into it, but he's like, I don't want to say not all there either, because he's certainly not a sociopath or anything like that. Just that he's a little off himself. It's creepy when it needs to be creepy. They're clearly setting this thing up that goes far beyond the first season, and it's just very good. There's a travel montage with, I think, in episode 2, and this is such a little thing, but it's so well shot, and like the best travel montage I've seen in anything. So check that out. And there's also a show that's going to be a little bit harder to check out unless you want to drop some monies. I saw Terriers, the FX show that only lasted 1 season, and I'd heard lots of good things about it. I read about 2 weeks before November was over that it was leaving Netflix. So I'm like, what the hell? I had, unemployed, have lots of time. I started watching it. It's basically a detective, private detective show in the line of like Psych or, those kind of like Burn Notice. Is that one of them? Or, like one of those type shows. But it's just very well done. like that show, like the mysteries are, there, but you're really there for the characters. Donald Logue is super good, and oh shoot, I can't remember the other guy's name. I meant to write it down. I think there's a John or a Michael in there in his name. Anyway, they're very good. They have good chemistry, and Donald Logue is just so dry and funny, and I like it a lot. And it is available on other platforms, but you'd have to pay money for it. So if it comes back to Netflix or Hulu, maybe I'll look out for it and watch, and so should you.
Hey guys, pay money for your content. It's okay.
Well, I mean, I'm paying Netflix. Paying for Netflix, so
yeah, you watched it in time. I'm not shitting on you. Just like, hey, well, you can just pay for it too.
That's true. Yeah, so check that out. And meanwhile, I'm going to look up his name.
Michael Raymond James.
Thank you.
Michael Raymond James.
Loren, what are you not defending?
I did decide that on theme I was going to come in and talk about the P.J. Hogan Peter Pan, though we did cover that well. But still, you guys should watch. It's
fucking amazing.
It's perfection.
It's very good.
Performances are all excellent. It captures the spirit of the story, but builds on that in a rational and perfect way. It's incredible. But so we've done that. I'll move that to the side and decide that my other thing that I will say needs no defense is I have been revisiting the classic sitcom Frasier, just having it on during work or other things. But it's, besides that it was an incredible sitcom and still so funny and so witty, I'm more moved now in this day and age by what a beautiful message the show is trying to give us. The championing of intellect and rationality, and these people trying to be their best selves, and being thwarted when they are moved by their baser instincts, by jealousy or lust or ambition, but still the continual struggle to have intelligence bring you above that and to be just the best self that you can be. And it's particularly painful this day and age to see that, like, oh, that's right, just the championing of rationality and
Kelsey Grammer's a Republican.
And that breaks my heart. And Frasier is not. And it just looking at, like, how could this happen? How could this person be in this day and age so very wrong? But just put that to the side. The art stands alone, and it's wonderful.
Cool. Awesome. Let's do our last segment, something we call plugs. We're on a little bit of a hiatus, the upperclassmen are, so we do have what's it called? A festival, a comedy festival that's going to be a festival. The weekend of President's Day. So that'll just Friday and Saturday at the Long Beach Playhouse. Check that out. And
starts at 8 p.m. each night, looks like.
Okay.
You gonna write something for it?
You know more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to write something, but we'll also have a podcast before that happens. So I will, if it happens, I'll plug it then. On a personal note, I would like to plug, I started a second Instagram feed where I take pictures of robots, and it is called La Vida Robo. No periods or underscores, just LAVIDAROBO. And I have a few big projects in mind, but right now it's just the robots, an introduction to the robots, if you will. How about you guys? You want to plug anything?
Could I say really fast, just going back to your festival?
Oh, yeah.
Just to do a plug, just so people can, if they want to.
Oh, yeah.
Join it.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we are taking submissions. I'm assuming what you were going to go. So if you are a comedian, improv group, sketch group, I think those are the big ones. You go to our Facebook. It's Upperclassmen. I didn't do any homework. I don't know what the actual handle is, but it could be Upperclassmen Comedy. We're out of Long Beach, so if you put in Upperclassmen in Long Beach, you can find us.
Will there be a connection through the Long Beach Playhouse website?
There very well might be.
Okay.
I do not know for sure.
So that's lbplayhouse.org.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Please submit, because we would like to get as many people as we can into the show.
Make Long Beach a vibrant performance community. Screw LA.
Indeed. Screw LA.
Screw LA. Screw Bobby.
Wait. Isn't Long Beach part of LA?
Well, yeah, but like...
LA's great.
It's the Florida of LA.
LA has a lot of good things.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So. I just don't have to drive that far to
quite
perform
literally
something.
Florida of LA.
Yeah, because that's
it's
where...
always Florida.
Yeah, that's funny. How about you, Bobby? Anything to plug?
Yeah, well, of course, follow us on social media. Go to our website.
Please rate us on iTunes.
In Defense of Bad. Oh, no, idobmpodcast.com.
Yeah.
And that's what our social media stuff is, too. Also, subscribe and listen to My Mistress, You're Wrong, with Ian and Bobby. I like it. It's a fun podcast. Says me, because I'm in it. But
So the title is My Mistress,
You're Wrong.
with
yeah,
Ian and Bobby.
Don't search that in iTunes. Search You're Wrong with Ian and Bobby. I am the Bobby in the title.
Oh, hey, I just got a new follower to La Vida Robo.
You
Thanks,
did.
Bobby. All right.
That's what he'll do. If you follow La Vida Robo, he will call you out on the podcast.
I will suck your dick.
I have that
On the podcast.
recorded, yes. All right, cool. Well, as always, I'm Sam Bowen. Next to me is Loren Bowen. Next to her is Bobby Mattern. And thank you. You guys want to say goodbye too? I don't want to speak for you guys.
No,
but
you're fine. You're doing fine.
as always, I'm Sam Bowen.
Should I talk now?
I'm setting up because they like I'll say their own names.
Okay.
Say goodbye. I don't know.
Do it.
I'm Sam Bowen.
I'm Loren Bowen.
I'm Bobby Mattern.
And we are
Wild and
Stallions.
I was going with Wild and Crazy Kids.
And this is In Defense of Bad Movies. Thanks for listening. Keep listening. Bye.
Bye.